the first game to kick us off, we have on Friday night the Crusaders up against Moana Pasifika. I have a feeling some points are going to be scored in the last 20 minutes of this game. But, Harry, do you want to take us through injuries and returning for this one?
Yeah, George Bauer left the field last week in the 79th minute. Apparently a knee injury. I think he got caught at the bottom of a ruck. Expected to be pretty serious. He couldn't even kind of wait there on it, walking off. So I think he'll probably be done for a fair while. No new injuries to Moana. But returning, you got a few players. Moana have Anzelo Tuatavuki, who should be coming back from a concussion, we would think, although, this is all speculation for Moana. They don't like to tell us anything. The Crusaders have Quinton Strange and Zach Gallagher both on track, coming back from their hamstring injury, and Finlay Brewis expected back as well this week. Nels, you had another point there?
Mate, all the Moana mojos are injured. I think you guys missed that. They have been hurt the last few weeks, and there's some positives for them. There's articles coming out left, right, and centre saying they're building for the future, and that's what they're trying to do. But are they building for the future? I don't know. There's just a couple star players for them that I think are really stepping up. There's definitely a lot of effort and there's a lot of heart with these boys. But to get them feeling good about things, I think they're going to need to get a big win soon.
I will say, in the post-match interview of last week's game, I forget who was interviewing him, but it was pretty savage interviewing Solomone Funaki. It was just like, it was good to see that, unlike last week, some of the boys turned up to support Levi Amua. It wasn't just Levi Amua out there on his own. It's like the most savage thing ever.
People actually backed him up.
Yeah, I was like, wow, all right. Anyway, but yeah, all right. So in this one, Nels, how do you see this one going? Let's look at the Crusaders first.
Yeah, look, the Crusaders, one of the questions for me is, are we going to see the Crusaders we know and love, from the last, handful of years, last 10 years, maybe even decade, or has there been too many injuries for them? There's a long list of outs for them, and the Crusaders have been forced to make a lot of changes, have been forced to bring, people from the dark depths of their development, pathways, and they're still very, very good players. But what it means is they don't have that cohesion. They don't have some of those strike weapons that they have had year after year. But I mean, this is a week that maybe that is something they don't need to think about. They're coming up against Moana. They need to rest a few players. Fainga'anuku is due a rest this week or next. This could be the week to do it. Tamati Williams, Scott Barrett, they're due AB All Blacks rests. Christie's played almost every minute for the entire year. So do they keep trying to build cohesion of some of these players around, or are they trying to give people rests this week?
Well, Fainga'anuku had a rest earlier, a couple of weeks ago against the Rebels, I think, and they do have the bye coming up.
Oh, bye, sorry, true. Yep.
But you're right. If there was a week where you wanted to roll out, your more junior players and really give them a go, it's probably this week. So it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do. Yeah, I won't be surprised if they roll out Noah Hotham again to give him another crack. I didn't realize how hyped up he was, but he's been spoken about in the same vein as Taha Kamara. Remember how we said he was signed as the future 5'8", completely ignoring Fergus Burke, who'd been there for years. Well, Noah Hotham was kind of spoken about in the same vein. So I think I'll see him play.
He built himself into that game last week, and he seems like he's got a really big future ahead of him. Drummond's had obviously lots of game time there. Willie Hines is a very, very experienced player, but it's not a bad game to go, let's give Noah another start and give him some more game time in that jersey, when you've got the wraps on him moving forward.
Let's not forget it's Richie Mo's 100th game, and they're already promoting it on the Crusaders Twitter page. So this is going to be a big week for the Crusaders. Like, he is the man that has handed them, maybe not single-handedly, but definitely the man that's handed them their titles. Like, it's going to be a bit of a party to celebrate his win. I think Lester Fainga'anuku, like you said, because of the bye, he will be starting and he'll just be running off Richie Mo all night long. Expect Richie Mo to throw the big dummy and then just run himself so he can get one of his own to celebrate against Cargie by the looks of the way he's shaking his head. But yeah, it's going to be a big, big game, and I think it's the last game before the Crusaders bye, and they should have the cavalry arriving after that. So it's, I guess, the last chance for their young blokes to really make a name for themselves. So going to be very interesting to see how some of them go.
Yeah, for Moana as well. That we've been saying week after week that we think they need a stick and pick, but there are some tweaks that we want to see in this lineup. Tavatava Nawai clearly is one of the wingers. We want Fainga Nuku. I believe we all are on the same page maybe about it. Like, he hasn't been the clear out and out standout, but he's got a lot of promise. He's shown that he does have it. So I want to see him get another chance on the wing.
Yeah, they're just both players that can create something out of nothing. Obviously, Tavatava Nawai more so, but Tima Fainganuku, in the one game he was back, he had a really, really good game. He almost bagged. It was very unlucky not bagging himself a pretty incredible solo effort try. He just went out. But I think they're their two best wingers. And, when they get the ball out to them, they need them to deliver something.
There's a bit of there's a bit of Fainganuku bias here, though. I thought Naraya Fomai had a brilliant game on the weekend. He was probably one of the best from Moana. Had a blinder.
Yeah, Fomai is a good player. I think that is probably a little bit harsh on him, because he has, whenever given the chance, looked pretty promising for him. But
I'm happy to concede the Fainganuku bias. I'm happy to concede that. That's true.
Yeah, there's something about Fainganuku, and it could be his name.
Yeah.
It could be. Not definitely is. But the centre pairing Tuala and Almua, that's got to be what you stick with. That's just such a good centre pairing for them. The question for me is McClutchy or Leali'ifano, because I think McClutchy, he's a very good player, and he was pretty good for them last week.
Yeah, McClutchy, I don't know. I think McClutchy just is prepared to throw it around a bit more and just like kind of chance his arm a bit more. He's a bit more agile, a bit more of like a more dynamic runner of the ball, whereas, Leali'ifano is more of that, he used to be able to do that, but he's more of that seasoned head these days. Better, I guess, perhaps you can rely on him to make better decisions, and his game vision might be a bit better, and making the right decision to play for territory when you need it and things like that. But at some point, you just need to go all out on the attack, right? You got to score some points, and I think for Moana, the problem they have is playing 80-minute games, right? And so I think the only way that they're going to play an 80-minute game is that if they actually get some more points or like much closer in the competition, halfway or 2/3 of the way through the game. Like if they're in the lead, I feel like they're going to want to keep it. They're not going to actually switch off. Whereas they have been switching off when they're not in the lead and just kind of running out of steam. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
So you're saying McClutchy?
I want to see McClutchy, yep.
I want to see McClutchy because of who he is and what I think he could be. But at the same time, like if I'm picking my first choice 10, it's Christian Leali'ifano. Like you talked about them scoring more points. Well, they scored 17 points on the weekend. Like they didn't exactly go out and have a blinder. So yeah, they've averaged a similar kind of score to that with Christian. The only downside was that game they scored 0, but obviously they didn't show up that week. So I don't think you can put that on him. He has got a neck injury though, so I guess it just depends on how quickly he recovers. It might be taken out of the selector's hands there as well. So I wouldn't mind McClutchy just getting a couple more weeks to have a proper crack.
And my question here is for Nels, is just on the back rowers. So I mean, they've got some fantastic back rowers, but for mine, Alamanda Motunga and Solomone Funaki, they're both sevens. And I know there seems to be a huge trend these days to roll out 2 sevens, a la Wilkin and Hardwick, or lots of teams are doing it. But and I know Funaki's really that leadership character in the team, but mate, they've got some great big ball runners at number 8. Miracle Failangi is obviously crushing it at 6. So, I don't think you need to roll out both Motunga and Funaki. I think you want one of them on there at 7, bring one off the bench, to inject them in the end. But with Lotu Inisi and Jonah Ma'al, who are both just big dynamic ball carriers at 8, I think they really need those guys on the field to get that go forward, What do you think, Nels?
Oh, look, I get what you're saying. I think that, they do have the strength of their ball runners out wide as well, that they rely very heavy on. So it means you might be able to have your combination of Motunga and Funaki. Funaki is a big boy. He's 115 kilos. He's not a small open side flanker. And he does do some work in tight. But yeah, we see Jonah Ma'u come off the bench. He didn't get a great crack last week, but we've seen glimpses of him ball in hand look very threatening. So it just depends on, do they want to keep resorting to throwing it to Tavatava Nawai, Almua for their punch, because there is no number 8 that can punch like those two. those two are just phenomenal.
I mean, just pack down Tava Nawai at 8, you know what I mean, on the scrum. That's fine. Do that, whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, just whenever you just need him to pick the ball up at the back or Amua, just mix them up. It doesn't really matter. One of them can play halfback. They are very, very scary. I was trying to look at the stat before to see how many tackle busts these two blokes have, because it is some scary stuff.
Moana, I think Moana is second in the competition for tackle busts.
And there's two of them that are doing all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Amua from the 6 matches has 32 tackle busts, which is insane. And he's not
really.
Yeah.
Holy Jesus!
Yeah, that's not bad.
He didn't even play all the games.
And what about Tava Nawai?
Yeah, Tava Nawai. To date in this comp, he's played less. He's played 5 games. He has 35 tackle busts.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got more, surely.
7 a match.
Crazy. Yeah,
Jesus
that is
Christ.
just
how good.
Insane.
All right, boys.
Midway through this game, I tweeted, "Can someone tell Eddie that Almua is still available for the Wallabies? This guy is just phenomenal, and he is Wallabies eligible." I don't want to see it happen to Moana.
We'll have
Moana is purely
about 12, Almua at 13. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't want to see it, hurting the Pacific game. But this guy grew up most of his life in Australia. Let the boy play for the Wallabies. Even if he doesn't want to, make him play for the Wallabies. We need him.
And what's your tip, Nels?
Yeah, let's get to the tips, boys.
Crusaders going to win this one, no doubt. It's going to be a blowout towards the back end. Moana hopefully show some heart, but I'll say Crusaders by 24.
Harry?
The line's 29, so I think Nelson's dreaming. I've gone 32. I was thinking maybe high 30s, but with Crusaders just kind of limping into their bye, 32, it'll be a bit closer.
And because I like to live on the edge, I'm just going to bag that on 33. Just get that outlier right there. So,
very good.